One evening, with nothing to lead up or to prepare it, I felt the cold touch of the impression that had breathed on me the night of my arrival, and which, much lighter then, as I've mentioned, I should probably have made little of in memory had my subsequent sojourn been less agitated. I had not gone to bed. I sat reading by a couple of candles. There was a roomful of old books at play. I remember that the book I had in my hand was Fielding's Amelia. Also that I was wholly awake. I recall further both a general conviction that it was horribly late, and a particular objection to looking at my watch. There was a moment during which I listened, reminded of the faint sense I had had the first night of there being something undefinably astir in the house, and noted the soft breath of the open casement just move the half-drawn blind. Then I laid down my book, rose to my feet, and taking a candle, went straight out of the room and noiselessly closed and locked the door. I can say now neither what determined nor what guided me, but I went straight along the lobby, holding my candle high, till I came within sight of the tall window that presided over the great turn of the staircase. The next instant, I saw that there was someone on the stair. I speak of sequences, but I required no lapse of seconds to stiffen myself for a third encounter with Wint. The apparition had reached the landing halfway up, and was therefore on the spot nearest the window, where, at sight of me, it stopped short and fixed me exactly as it had fixed me from the tower and from the garden. He knew me as well as I knew him, and so in the cold, faint twilight, with a glimmer in the high glass and another on the polish of the oak stair below, we faced each other in our common intensity. He was absolutely, on this occasion, a living, detestable, dangerous presence. I had plenty of anguish after that extraordinary moment, but I had, thank God, no terror. And he knew I had not. It was the dead silence of our long gaze at such close quarters that gave the whole horror, huge as it was, its only note of the unnatural. I can't express what followed it, save by saying that the silence itself became the element into which I saw the figure disappear, in which I definitely saw it turn, as I might have seen the low wretch to which it had once belonged turn on receipt of an order, and pass with my eyes on the villainous back that no hunch could have more disfigured, straight down the staircase and into the darkness in which the next bend was lost. I remained a while at the top of the stair, but with the effect presently of understanding that when my visitor had gone, he had gone. Then I returned to my room. The foremost thing I saw there by the light of the candle I'd left burning was that Flora's little bed was empty. And on this I caught my breath with all the terror that 5 minutes before I'd been able to resist. I dashed at the place in which I'd left her lying, and over which the white curtains had been deceivingly pulled forward. Then my step, to my unutterable relief, produced an answering sound. I perceived an agitation of the window blind, and the child, ducking down, emerged rosily from the other side of it. She stood there in so much of her candour and so little of her nightgown, with her pink bare feet and the golden glow of her curls.
You naughty! Where have you been?
You were looking for me out of the window. You thought I might be walking in the grounds?
Well, you know, I thought someone was.
And did you see anyone?
No.
Why did you pull the curtain over the place to make me think you were still there?
Because I don't like to frighten you.
But if I had, by your idea, gone out...
Oh, but you know, that you might come back, you dear. And you have.
You may imagine the general complexion from that moment of my nights. I repeatedly sat up till I didn't know when, and stealing out took noiseless turns in the passage, and even pushed as far as to where I'd last met Quint. On the 11th night, after my latest encounter with that gentleman, I had an alarm that, indeed, from the particular quality of its unexpectedness, proved quite my sharpest shock. Weary with watching, I had felt that I might again, without laxity, lay myself down at my old hour. I slept immediately, until about 1 o'clock. But when I woke, it was to sit straight up, as completely roused as if a hand had shook me. I had left a light burning, but it was now out, and I felt an instant certainty that Flora had extinguished it. This brought me to my feet and straight, in the darkness, to her bed, which I found she'd left. A glance at the window enlightened me further, and the striking of a match completed the picture. The child had again got up, this time blowing out the taper, and had again, for some purpose of observation or response, squeezed in behind the blind and was peering out into the night. There was a figure in the grounds, a figure prowling for a sight, the visitor with whom Flora was engaged. The moon made the night extraordinarily penetrable, and showed me on the lawn a person, diminished by distance, who stood there motionless, and as if fascinated, looking up to where I'd appeared, looking, that is, not so much straight at me, as at something that was apparently above me. There was clearly another person above me. There was a person on the tower, but the presence on the lawn was not in the least what I had conceived and had confidently hurried to meet. The presence on the lawn, I felt sick as I made it out, was poor little Miles himself. You must tell me now, and all the truth. What did you go out for? What were you doing there?
If I tell you why, will you understand? Well, just exactly in order that you should do this.
Do what?
Think me for a change bad.
Then you didn't undress at all.
Not at all. I sat up and read.
And where did you go down?
At midnight. When I'm bad, I am bad.
But how could you be sure I would know it?
Oh, I arranged that with Flora. She was to get up and look out.
Which is what she did do.
So she disturbed you. And to see what she was looking at, you also looked. You saw.
While you caught your death in the night air.
How otherwise should I have been bad enough?
It all lies in half a dozen words. Words that really settle the matter. Think you know what I might do. He threw that off to show me how good he is. He knows down to the ground what he might do. That's what he gave them a taste of at school.
Lord, you do change.
I don't change. I simply make it out. The four, depend upon it, perpetually meet. The more I've watched and waited, the more I've felt that if there were nothing else to make it sure, it would be made so by the systematic silence of each. Never, by a slip of the tongue, had they so much as alluded to either of their old friends, any more than Miles has alluded to his expulsion. Oh, yes, we may sit here and look at them, and they may show off to us there to their fill, but even while they pretend to be lost in their fairy tale, they're steeped in their vision of the dead restored. He's not reading to her. They're talking of them. They're talking Horace. I go on, I know, as if I were crazy, and it's a wonder I'm not. What I've seen would have made you so. But it has only made me more lucid, made me get hold of still other things.
Of what other things have you got hold?
Why, of the very things that have delighted, fascinated, and yet, at bottom, as I now so strangely see, mystified and troubled me. They're more than earthly beauty. They're absolutely unnatural goodness. It's a game.
On the part of the little darlings?
Yes, mad as that seems. They haven't been good. They've only been absent. It has been easy to live with them, because they're simply leading a life of their own. They're not mine, they're not ours. They're his, and they're hers.
Quince and that woman's.
Quince and that woman's. They want to get to them.
But for what?
For the love of all the evil that in those dreadful days the pair put into them, and to ply them with that evil still, to keep up the work of demons, is what brings the others back.
Laws, they were rascals. But what can they do now?
Do? Don't they do enough? They can destroy them. They don't know as yet quite how, but they're trying hard. They're seen only across, as it were, and beyond, in strange places and on high places, the top of towers, the roof of houses, the outside of windows, the further edge of pools. But there's a deep design on either side to shorten the distance and overcome the obstacle. And the success of the tempters is only a question of time. They've only to keep to their suggestions of danger,
For the children to come.
and perish in the attempt. Unless, of course, we can prevent.
Their uncle must do the preventing. He must take them away.
And who's to make him?
You, miss.
By writing to him that his house is poisoned and his little nephew and niece mad.
But if they are, miss.
And if I am myself, you mean? That's charming news to be sent him by a governess whose prime undertaking was to give him no worry.
Yes, he do hate worry. That was the great reason.
Why
that-
those fiends took him in so long. As I'm not a fiend, at any rate I shouldn't take him in.
Make him at any rate come to you.
To me? Him?
He ought to be here. He ought to help.
The summer had turned, the summer had gone. The autumn had dropped upon Bly and had blown out half our lights. The place, with its grey sky and withered garlands, its bared spaces and scattered dead leaves, was like a theatre after the performance, all strewn with crumpled playbills. There were exactly states of the air, conditions of sound and of stillness, unspeakable impressions of the kind of ministering moment that brought back to me, long enough to catch it, the feeling of the medium in which that June evening out of doors I had had my first sight of Quint, and in which, too, at those other instants, I had, after seeing him through the window, looked for him in vain in the circle of shrubbery. I recognized the signs, the portents. I recognized the moment, the spot. But they remained unaccompanied and empty, and I continued unmolested. I was ready to know the very worst that was to be known. What it was most impossible to get rid of was the cruel idea that whatever I had seen, Miles and Flora saw more. Things terrible and unguessable, and that sprang from dreadful passages of intercourse in the past. Walking to church a certain Sunday morning, I had little Miles at my side, and his sister, in advance of us and at Mrs. Groce's, well in sight. It was a crisp, clear day, the first of its order for some time. The night had brought a touch of frost, and the autumn air, bright and sharp, made the church bells almost gay.
Look here, my dear. You know, when in the world, please, am I going back to school? You know, my dear, that for a fellow to be with a lady always, of course, she's a jolly perfect lady, but after all, I'm a fellow, don't you see, that's, well, getting on.
Yes, you're getting on.
And you can't say I've not been awfully good, can you?
No, I can't say that, Miles.
Except just that one night, you know.
That one night.
Why, when I went out of the house.
Oh, yes, but I forget what you did it for.
You forget? Why, it was to show you I could.
Oh, yes, you could.
And I can again.
Certainly. But you won't.
No, not that again. It was nothing.
It was nothing. But we must go on.
Then when am I going back?
Were you very happy at school?
Oh, I'm happy enough anywhere.
Well, then, if you're just as happy here.
Ah, but that isn't everything. Of course, you know a lot.
But you hint that you know almost as much.
Not half I want to. But it isn't so much that.
What is it, then?
Well, I want to see more life.
I see.
I want my own sort.
There are not many of your own sort, Miles. Unless, perhaps, dear little Flora.
You really compare me to a baby girl?
Don't you then love our sweet Flora?
If I didn't, and you too, if I didn't...
Yes, if you didn't.
Well, you know what. Does my uncle think what you think?
How do you know what I think?
Oh, well, of course I don't, for it strikes me you never tell me. But I mean, does he know?
Know what, Miles?
Why, the way I'm going on.
I don't think your uncle much cares.
Then don't you think he can be made to?
In what way?
Why, by his coming down.
But who'll get him to come down?
I will.
For the first minute since his arrival, I wanted to get away from him. As I paused beneath the high east window and listened to the sounds of worship, I was taken with an impulse that might master me, I felt, completely, should I give it the least encouragement. I might easily put an end to my predicament by getting away altogether. Here was my chance. There was no one to stop me. I could give the whole thing up, turn my back and retreat. I came straight out of the churchyard and, thinking hard, retraced my steps through the park. It seemed to me that by the time I reached the house, I'd made up my mind I would fly. The Sunday stillness fairly excited me with a sense of opportunity. Were I to get off quickly, this way, I should get off without a scene, without a word. My quickness would have to be remarkable, however, and the question of a conveyance was the great one to settle. Tormented in the hall with difficulties and obstacles, I remember sinking down at the foot of the staircase, suddenly collapsing there on the lowest step, and then, with a revulsion, recalling that it was exactly where, more than a month before, in the darkness of night, and just so bowed with evil things, I had seen the spectre of the most horrible of women. At this, I was able to straighten myself. I went the rest of the way up. I made, in my bewilderment, for the schoolroom where there were objects belonging to me that I should have to take. But I opened the door, to find again, in a flash, my eyes unsealed. In the presence of what I saw, I reeled straight back upon my resistance. Seated at my own table in the clear noonday light, I saw a person whom, without my previous experience, I should have taken at the first blush for some housemaid who might have stayed at home to look after the place. Then it was that her identity flared up in a change of posture. She rose, not as if she had heard me, but with an indescribable grand melancholy of indifference and detachment, and within a dozen feet of me stood there, as my vile predecessor. Dishonoured and tragic, she was all before me. But even as I fixed and for memory secured it, the awful image passed away. Dark as midnight in her black dress, her haggard beauty and her unutterable woe, she had looked at me long enough to appear to say that her right to sit at my table was as good as mine to sit at hers. While these instants lasted, indeed, I had the extraordinary chill of a feeling that it was I who was the intruder. It was as a wild protest against it that, actually addressing her, "You terrible, miserable woman," I heard myself break into a sound that rang through the long passage and the empty house. She looked at me as if she heard me, but I had recovered myself and cleared the air. There was nothing in the room the next minute but the sunshine, and a sense that I must stay.
Oh, yes, they asked me to say nothing. and to please them, so long as they were there, of course I promised. But what had happened to you?
I only went with you for the walk. I had then to come back to meet a friend.
A friend? You?
Oh, yes, I have a couple. But did the children give you a reason?
For not alluding to your leaving us? Yes, they said you would like it better. Do you like it better?
No, I like it worse. Did they say why I should like it better?
No, Master Miles only said we must do nothing but what she likes.
I wish indeed he would. And what did Flora say?
Miss Flora was too sweet. She said, oh, of course, and I said the same.
You were too sweet too. I can hear you all. But nonetheless, between Miles and me, it's now all out.
All out? But what, miss?
Everything. It doesn't matter, I've made up my mind. I came home, my dear, for a talk with Miss Jessel.
A talk? Do you mean she spoke?
It came to that. I found her on my return in the schoolroom.
And what did she say?
That she suffers the torments.
Do you mean of the lost?
Of the lost, of the damned. And that's why, to share them,
To share them?
she wants Flora. As I've told you, however, it doesn't matter.
Because you've made up your mind. But to what?
To everything.
And what do you call everything?
Why, sending for their uncle.
Oh, miss, in pity do.
But I will. I see it's the only way. What's out, as I told you, with Miles, is that if he thinks I'm afraid to, he shall see he's mistaken. Yes, his uncle shall have it here from me on the spot, and before the boy himself, if necessary, that if I'm to be reproached with having done nothing again about more school...
Yes, miss.
Well, there's that awful reason.
But, which?
Why, the letter from his old place.
You show it to the master.
I ought to have done so on the instant.
Oh, no.
I'll put it before him that I can't undertake to work the question on behalf of a child who has been expelled.
For we've never in the least known what.
For wickedness. For what else? When he's so clever and beautiful and perfect. Is he stupid? Is he untidy? Is he infirm? Is he ill-natured? He's exquisite. So it can be only that. And that would open up the whole thing. After all, it's their uncle's fault. If he left here such people as...
We didn't really in the least know them. The fault's mine.
Well, you shan't suffer.
The children shan't.
Then what am I to tell him?
You needn't tell him anything. I'll tell him.
Do you mean you'll write?
I tell the bailiff, he writes.
And should you like him to write our story?
Ah, miss, you write.
Well, tonight.